evidence we are about to present to you has the potential to rewrite thousands of years of human history. It will present evidence that suggests ancient serpent or lizard-like aliens came to Earth thousands of years ago and played a role in creating religion, humanity, and are still among us today. The evidence is based on extensive research of ancient myths, texts, archaeological finds, science, and other sources. We will explore the various cultures around the world that have legends and stories of serpent-like aliens who created humans and the religious systems used to control them. We will also look at symbols and artifacts from ancient civilizations that point to an alien origin. We will also present evidence that these ancient aliens are still among us today. We will look at the various stories of alien abduction, UFO sightings, and mysterious disappearances that have been reported around the world. We will also present evidence that these aliens have been manipulating world events and are using religion and other means to secretly control humanity. This is an exciting journey into the unknown, with evidence that challenges accepted beliefs and forces us to consider the possibility that an alien race may have been manipulating us for thousands of years. Prepare to have your beliefs challenged and your minds opened. The concept that alien serpent-like creatures came to Earth thousands of years ago and created religion, humanity, and still control us even now is a controversial one. Many people believe that this is a myth, while others argue that it is true. We will prove the point in several ways. Ancient artwork from around the world depicts snake-like creatures and strange beings with wings, which is believed to be a representation of the alien serpent-like creatures. Various mythologies from cultures around the world describe figures resembling snake-like life forms of alien origin. Several ancient texts describe events that could be interpreted as alien contact, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh. Ancient civilizations, such as the Sumerians, Egyptians, and Mayans, had advanced knowledge of astronomy and mathematics that could not be explained by their primitive technology. Ancient cultures around the world have stories that describe a great flood, which could be interpreted as aliens coming to Earth and resetting the planet. Ancient monuments such as the Egyptian pyramids and Stonehenge have unexplained origins and purposes. Many ancient cultures had belief systems that revolve around gods or supernatural beings from the sky, which could be interpreted as aliens. Religious texts from around the world describe events that could be interpreted as alien contact, such as the Bible's story of Noah's Ark. There are numerous accounts of people who have claimed to have been abducted by aliens or encountered strange beings. Numerous UFO sightings have been reported throughout history, and many of them remain unexplained. Many modern technologies have origins that can be traced back to ancient civilizations, such as the flying machine described in the Rig Veda. There are numerous accounts of ancient artifacts with mysterious origins, such as the Antikythera mechanism, a complex device that was discovered in a shipwreck off the coast of Greece. There have been numerous reports of mysterious lights in the sky and strange structures on the ground, which could be interpreted as evidence of alien activity. Crop circles have been found all over the world, and many of them have intricate designs that could not have been created by humans. There are numerous unexplained phenomena that could be attributed to alien activity, such as the Bermuda Triangle and the Nazca Lines. There is a great deal of evidence to suggest that alien serpent-like creatures did come to Earth thousands of years ago and created religion, humanity, and continue to control us even now. Over 5,000 years before Christ, an amazing thing happened that would change the course of human history. Hidden from us by misunderstanding, mistranslation, and clouded in mythology, the birth of religion on this planet was no mere accident. It was the result of an alien invasion on a vast scale, and it sparked the worship of the ancient gods. Those gods are the oldest recorded figures of worship anywhere in history. They are the root of all the major world religions. They gave rise to the great powers of Egypt, Mesopotamia, and more. They spread outwards around the world and were the genesis of a special holy bloodline that remains with us today. Man first came into contact with the aliens. The discovery of this one location surprised the world. Nobody expected original worship to be that of the serpent, and yet it is within every single religion. It is in all the myths of the world, and they all tell the same story. In the beginning, the serpent was the wise one, the only animal in the Bible to speak freely with his own mind and voice. The tempter, and yet also the holder of ultimate wisdom and the elixir of life. Mankind, in comparison to this remarkable animal, appeared foolish. From that day forward, the serpent would control man. The very genetic makeup of mankind altered from this moment. We cannot say exactly when. We cannot pinpoint the so-called Garden of Eden in time. But we can piece together the remarkable story of the moment the serpent aliens came from the skies. We can uncover the story of what happened next and how it has affected our own time. The truth is, aliens do walk among us right now. To many, the very idea that the serpent is hidden within our religions and mythology will seem bizarre. In Christianity and other faiths, it is reviled, and this itself is a folk memory of a fearful and warring past between mankind and the serpent. Nevertheless, the historical truth is that the serpent is there, and it is the root of all major religions. This has been proven again and again, both from scriptures and archaeology. The easiest and most clear way to realize that the serpent is hidden in our lives is to actually understand the language of the serpent itself. We need to get to the roots. The snake is known in the language of Canaan as Ab, Ob, Oph, Op, Ep, and Ev. Amazingly, in the Mayan language, Can means serpent, as in Kukulkan, the bird serpent, and just as the ancient Sumerian Akan and the Scottish Can for serpent, which is where we get the word canny, like wise snake. Vulcan, the Roman god of fire, comes from the Babylonian Can for serpent and Vol for fire, showing an etymological link across thousands of miles. The aspect of fire being included in the word is a clue to the origins of the serpent and its worship. For the ancients came with fire. There are no real snakes on earth that are also fire, and so it must mean something quite different. Perhaps similar to that fire or light seen in modern-day UFO sightings. At the very center of the Christian world, the Vatican comes from the words vatis for prophet and can for serpent, making the Vatican a place of serpent prophecy. The very book of Christians across the world, the Bible, is full of the serpent, and its inclusion is very interesting, for it reveals how the serpent was seen. The oracle of King Saul was called one that hath Ob, or the priestess of Ob, a word that means serpent. The serpent worshippers of Moses' time and region were known as Hivites, derived from Hivia, or serpent, the root of Eve. Hivites became Ophites, the early Christian Gnostic serpent worshippers who claimed affinity with the Christians in the 2nd century AD. Indeed, the very children of Israel intermarried with them and served their gods. This is very revealing. Intermarriage and worship of the serpent gods. Today, we can easily replace the word gods with aliens. They were also known as Baalim, from the god Baal. Baal was an abbreviation of Ab-El, the serpent god, or shining serpent. The shining aspect of the serpent reveals a subtle clue. The serpent was indeed seen in the sky and shone down upon us. This is why in Egypt, for instance, we will see the sun, or Aten, wrapped with the snake, and why the serpent was worldwide seen as a symbol of the sun. It was these shining ones, or serpents, which were the lights in the sky that descended to Earth. They were the lights that our ancestors saw in the sky, the sun, moon, and stars. But these lights came down to Earth and settled amongst us. The lights were the ships, the craft of the strange serpent-like humanoids that stepped off and walked among mankind. The Greeks called Baal Belair, which means a dragon or great serpent. Baal is the Assyrio-Babylonian version of the gods Enlil and Marduk, the same Baal seen throughout the Bible. So the Baal in the Bible is a Babylonian serpent god, one of the ancient lights of wisdom that descended to Earth. The European, Beltane, should be rendered Baltan, both words signifying the dragon or serpent. In fact, Tanit was the patron goddess of Carthage in northern Africa, who was also associated with the Tree of Life, like Ishtar and Astarte, and she definitely crossed cultures into Europe, becoming the root of the word Easter. The name Tanit means Serpent Lady, and she is found on many coins in Carthage associated with the caduceus and symbolizing the role of Tanit in life, death, and rebirth. She is basically the same as the Queen of Heaven, Astarte, Isis, and Mary. All of these deities and names go back to Babylonian beliefs of serpent worship, which in turn goes across to Egypt and Mesopotamia in general towards the African ancient serpent cults, the very place that the original Shining Ones descended to Earth and began their teaching of mankind. Christianity, then, is related to the most ancient serpent worship known, and if it were not for the destructive covering up of huge amounts of historical data by the Christians, then this would have been all the more obvious. It is theorized that the Christians were ashamed of this link and did all they could to destroy it, not least because it would reveal their own deity to be of serpent origin itself. Years later, as we shall see, the serpent bloodline would emerge again in the line of the Merovingians, and again the Christians would fight a battle to subdue them. A general term used for early Christian Gnostics was Ophites, which means serpent worshippers. It was this group that wrote the New Testament. Epiphanius said, "The Ophites sprung out of the Nicolaitans and Gnostics, and were so called from the serpent which they worshipped. They taught that the ruler of this world was of a draconic form, and the Ophites attribute all wisdom to the serpent of paradise, and say that he was the author of the knowledge of men." An amazing declaration, which speaks volumes. The guardians of the very history and religion that would become Christianity was based on and fostered by those who worshipped the ancient wise serpent that came and taught mankind. The ruler of this world was of draconic form. It was the dragon, the winged serpent, the shining serpent that could fly. It was ultimately wise and should be worshipped as a god. As if in memory of the power of the serpent bloodline, the blood itself was symbolically ingested. A ritual cup was used, known as the Cup of the Agatho demon, meaning simply, good serpent. This serpent-consecrated cup of wine was handed around after supper, just like at the Last Supper of Christ, and was received with much shouting and joyousness. The hymn sung via the serpent to the Supreme Father was just the same is the one sung in the memory of the python at Delphi on the seventh day of the week. Now, thousands of years later, Christians still take the cup of Christ, who was called the Good Serpent by the Gnostics. This modern ritual is none other than the original, but renamed Cup of the Sacred Serpent, which gives the body and blood of our oldest god, the body and blood of the ancient serpent race. A 3rd century Persian teacher known as Manes, who said that Christianity had got things wrong and he was here to put it right, attempted to revive these old ways. Regardless of the Christian attempts to kill off Manichaeism, it survived until the 13th century. He is said to have revived Ophiolatreia, or serpent worship, where he taught that Christ was an incarnation of the great serpent, who glided over the cradle of the Virgin Mary when she was asleep at the age of 1.5 years. But the worship of the serpent was much more ancient than even Manes stated. In Britain, the serpent god was Hu, the dragon ruler of the world, a statement remarkably similar to that of the Ophites. The druid was known as a natter, now known as an adder, and as the adder was the symbol of the god Hu. The druids were, quote, Ophites of the original stock. They worshipped also Balai, or Baal. So in this respect, the druids were probably the last truly serpent-worshipping priests in Europe, a remnant of ancient days, long forgotten, but remembered in words and deeds. According to Herodotus, a sacred serpent was fed honey cakes once a month at the Acropolis in Athens. These honey cakes were marked with the omphalos. The superstition of the omphalos was widespread, like the serpent, believed from India to Greece. It is a sphere or orb with spiral lines thought to represent serpents coiled. There are similar markings on ancient stone monuments across the world. To the Etruscans of ancient Italy, the omphalos was seen as a route to another world. It was placed in a trench called a mundus, and fruits were lowered into the trench, which was then covered by a huge stone. The entire city was centered on this spot, with all roads leading to and from it. This is a remnant of the idea that the serpent race came from another world, and the omphalos, a representation of the devices used for travel. Probably the most famous omphalos is the one now in the museum at Delphi. In Greek history, the Delphic oracle was called Pytho, or Python, the snake, and she was active for over 1,000 years, getting involved in anything from mundane day-to-day prophecies to matters of state. As throughout the history of the mystical serpent, it has been associated with powers of future sight, known to us today as precognition. An indication that the serpent is associated strongly with prophecy is the stark fact that the words for divination in Hebrew, Arabic, and Greek all mean serpent. This alone indicates that Hebrew, Arabic, and Greek are following the same beliefs over a vast period of time. In Islam, the snake is always seen as being closely associated with life. In fact, the word El-Hayah, meaning snake, is close to El-Hayat, meaning the life-giving principle. The Prophet Muhammad is said to have spoken of the strange and powerful angelic beings known as jinn, from where we get genie, as being of three kinds, one of which was a serpent. Indeed, the white jinn are said to be formed from the irises of the serpent. The king of the jinn was Jamshid, who just happens to be famous for having a beautiful cup of elixir. The resplendent Jam, as he was known, was the first to organize society and was one of the first legendary rulers of Persia. Wine and sugar were made for the first time. He was the first to construct roads and build ships. During his long reign, Jamshid received a warning that in 3 severe winters, heavy snowfalls would cover the earth and all creation would be destroyed, very much like the flood of Noah. Jamshid followed the divine order and constructed a var, which is a fortress, into which he took the best men, women, animals, and plants to reproduce and replenish the earth after the snows had melted. His reign was remembered as a time of powerful, ancient serpent rulers who came to Earth, taught mankind, mated with humans, and eventually fell into a situation of war with their offspring. The exact same story we find in Sumeria, Egypt, the Bible, and numerous other cultures around the globe. A memory of an ancient invasion before recorded history. Of course, a lot of this suggests that ancient serpent aliens actually created humanity in the first place. And so, we must now move on to the mythical progenitors of the whole of the human race. A story of 2 people, created by the god of ancient times to populate the earth. A hybrid species, part god and part of the earth itself. Remarkably, the origin is found to be related to serpent worship from their Sumerian origins. The word Hevia is the root of Eve and means female serpent. It is connected to the same Arabic root, which means both life and serpent. The Persians even called the constellation Serpens the Little Ava, or Eve. In Old Akkadian, Ad signifies father, and Adam was closely associated in legend with Seth, Saturn, and Thoth, who were all associated strongly as serpents. Abel, the son of Adam and Eve, means serpent shining, and Cain was thought to be of serpent descent, simply because he was. The other and important point to note is that Adam and Eve were initially immortal, and Eve gained her wisdom via the serpent on the tree of knowledge and life. According to rabbinical tradition, Cain was not the son of Adam at all, but rather the son of Asmodeus, the serpent spirit. In conclusion, Adam and Eve, and even their sons, are serpents. The very so-called origin of humanity is in fact based upon those Sumerian shining ones that came from the sky in the form of serpents. The origin of humanity is from the line of serpents. American indigenous people call the snake Anita Way, or supernatural. It holds a high place in their worship because it is magical. It controls rain and thunder, has dominance over other animals and plants. It is no different to the serpent in other parts of the world. Why would this be? In a world where historians tell us these cultures never met, that they could not be related in any way. And yet, the belief systems are the same. There is in fact a clue, a big clue, in the tales, and it reveals the origin of those serpent beliefs. The rattlesnake was, according to legend, once a man, alluding to the ancient, incoming serpent race of antiquity. This man was transformed into a rattlesnake in order to bring salvation to the human race and save him. Yet again, it is the savior of mankind. Even the Cherokee Indians are afraid of killing the rattlesnake and will ask for pardon from the snake's ghost should they do so. There is even a tradition that if the snake is hung on a tree for 3 days, it will bring rain, remarkably similar to the Christian tale, and even a link with Yahweh, the rain god. These are the same because these are the same serpent deities influencing society across the globe. In mankind's effort to mimic their ancient deities, they began a peculiar tradition: circumcision. There are wall carvings in Egypt showing circumcision being practiced. The Egyptians held the belief that when the snake shed its skin, it had undergone rebirth and was symbolic of attaining new life, of being born again. It was a mirror of their greatest god. The Egyptian priest, in a mock ritual of the serpent shedding his skin, therefore removed the foreskin of the male, and so the male was born again, like the snake. This practice then spread to the Semitic peoples, Arabs, and Jews in later times, most probably via the emerging worshippers of the serpent elite. The fact is, this practice goes back to ancient Sumeria, the home of the original serpent shining ones who came down from the sky, the home of the ancient watchers, the original home of the angels of the Bible, who were shining messengers of the gods, and whose visage was that of the serpent. There is no denying that all the records we have of these shining ones record them as having descended from the heavens, to be incredibly wise and powerful, to have set up a special guardian race called the Watchers, who then went on to mate with humanity and create a hybrid race. That hybrid race is known across the world in folklore as the Giants. History tells us quite simply that this was a crime, and the original aliens, the Shining Ones, did battle with the Giants and brought about a great cataclysm. Researchers say this is not science fiction. This is recorded history, ignored by historians because it does not conform to their own belief systems. Ancient serpent aliens came to Earth and genetically engineered humans. This is what all the myths and religions of history tell us. The concept of ancient serpent alien invaders genetically engineering humanity is a popular one in modern culture. It fits with the ancient astronaut theory, which suggests that advanced extraterrestrial species visited Earth in the distant past and manipulated human evolution. Evidence of this theory can be seen in the many unexplained artifacts from ancient civilizations around the world, such as the pyramids of Egypt and the Nazca lines of Peru. The concept of serpent aliens is found in many different mythologies around the world. In many cultures, these serpent beings are associated with knowledge and wisdom, which could suggest that they were responsible for imparting knowledge to humanity. This could include the knowledge necessary to create complex civilizations, such as those seen in the ancient world. There is evidence to suggest that humanity has been genetically engineered in the distant past. DNA analysis of modern humans has revealed that our species has a common ancestor, which suggests that our genetic code has been altered at some point in our history. Additionally, some scientists have suggested that humans have interbred with other species, which could offer further evidence of alien intervention. There are literally hundreds of tales across the world relating to the descent from serpent aliens. There is little wonder when these serpent tribes were spreading their belief around the world before Egypt had even been thought of. Now that we have seen the traces of the alien invasion of the shining serpents in the mythology and history of the world, it's time to see if there are any ancient traces of them in artifacts and symbolism. The fact is, once our eyes are open to the existence of a massive worldwide serpent worship history, we cannot fail to see them. Almost everything about the mythology of the alien serpent race reveals that they were the gods who gave life, and no symbol reveals this more than the Ankh of ancient Egypt. The Ankh is a simple T-cross surmounted by an oval, called the Ru, which means, quite simply, gateway to another world. This enigmatic symbol of Egypt represents eternal life and was often found in the names of pharaohs such as Tut-Ankh-Amun. The symbol is often depicted being held by a god to a pharaoh, giving him life, or held by a pharaoh to his people, giving them life. This basically set aside the immortals from the mortals, for anyone wearing or carrying the Ankh was one of the genetically different race. The pharaoh was God on earth, and so he held his own symbol of the sun and the serpent to his people. It is the loop, the Ru, or gateway of the Ankh, which is held by the immortals to the nostrils. This is the same as the biblical God breathing life into the nostrils of Adam. The Ankh outlived Egyptian domination and was widely used by the Christians as their first cross, but in this symbol holds a clue to the secret of the serpent. Philo said that the This remarkable idea of wearing the Tau cross on the shoulder as a sign would later become part and parcel of the Crusader Templars' markings, the very same Templars who are instigated in the worship of serpents. Anybody who knows about the Da Vinci Code will know about the Templar-linked family of Christ, the Merovingians. They were said to be descended from Jesus and a serpent fish deity, and again, bear a red cross on the shoulder blades. We shall return to the Merovingians soon to unlock the key to the aliens that walk among us today. There are other signs and symbols scattered around the world that reveal the ancient aliens. If we move into the lands of the Celts, we discover more symbolism. Beautiful Celtic knotwork is derived from the images of the snake and the movements of the planets. It is a merging of the beings from the heavens and the heavens themselves. We can see influences of this in the spirals and other serpent shapes, not just in Celtic history, but also upon many of the world's ancient monuments. In Scandinavian literature and stone art, we can also see how the serpent appears, looking remarkably like Celtic knotwork. In Roman and Greek wall paintings, there are running spirals thought to be symbolic of the protective snake. Spirals and carvings of the serpent are seen all over the world, and it is always found to be in association with the serpent worship and strange and bizarre-looking alien-like creatures. It is no surprise that such images of the snake, in all its relative forms, should be seen on the most ancient of rock art. In the cup and ring marks, there are many images of what appears to be a serpent entering the cup and rings. Some have put this down to a serpent entering a hole, others that it is eating an egg. Nobody is sure. Maybe it reveals a kind of wormhole travel. Thoth was said to be the originator of serpent worship in Phoenicia. He is called a god, and he invented hieroglyphs. Thoth consecrated the species of dragons and serpents, and the Phoenicians and Egyptians followed him in this superstition. This Thoth is a memory of the first group who settled here on Earth and instigated the worship of the serpent after the flood or end of the last ice age 12,000 years ago. Thoth was deified after his death, a time that nobody knows, and given the title the God of Health or Healing. He was the prototype for Aesculapius and identified with Hermes and Mercury. All healers, all wise, all teachers, all saviors, and all associated with the serpent for their powers, and all individuals who could map the stars and movements of time. All with the full superpowers attributed again and again to the ancient aliens. This Thoth is the archetypal alien invader, the memory of the host that came down from the sky and taught mankind. The symbol of them all is the Tau cross, the mark of Cain, the symbol of the ancient alien invaders, the symbol our fabled gods have been sacrificed upon. If you wish to hide a secret, hide it in plain sight. And that is precisely what they did. For thousands of years, this symbol has become a sign of the ultimate secret, the ultimate truth of the origin of human civilization. It has been kept alive by one particular group, the guardians of the secret of the alien bloodline. It all began in Mesopotamia and is alive and well to this day in the bloodline of the royalty of the world. We have seen the history and mythology of the alien serpent past. We have seen the serpentine saviors rise and fall across the world. Today, there is one particular savior myth that has crept into popular folklore through various best-selling books, documentaries, and films, the Merovingian dynasty. The Merovingian dynasty has been romantically depicted by both the regional writers in France and international best-selling authors such as Dan Brown. There are tales of mystery and magic, of wisdom and light, and last but not least of all, descent from what we now call God via his son, Jesus, and his supposed wife, Mary Magdalene. Researchers insist that the Merovingians were descended from an ultra-ancient race of fallen angels that spawned the globe, taking wisdom and knowledge with them from Atlantis. It all started with the leader of the Salian Franks, known as Merovech, in the 5th century AD. Both he and his son, Childeric I, were great warriors and fought with superhuman strength against the Visigoths, Saxons, and Alemanni. Following Childeric came his son Clovis I, who went on to unite most of Gaul and the Loire Valley and defeated the Roman ruler Syagrius. It was Clovis I who adopted the Roman Catholic religion for his nation. Eventually, by the early 7th century, we end up with the infamous Dagobert II, also known as Dragobert, coming from the words dragon and Bert, which in turn comes from Bera or Para, which means Pharaoh. So Dagobert simply means king or Pharaoh of the dragons. He is the culmination of the serpent holy and royal bloodline. Dagobert is said to have visited the serpent-worshipping brethren in Ireland. But who is Dagobert, and where did he come from? What makes him so important that his skull should be turned into a grail? Dagobert II was a French king from the supposed Grail Merovingian bloodline, and was the last of the Merovingian kings to hold the title of Holy Roman Emperor. These Merovingians are said to be a dynasty of Frankish priest kings with magical power, shoulders of a red cross. Obviously, the Christians spread rumors of witchcraft and various other misdemeanors because Dagobert was seen as a threat. After several years spent away from his Frankish kingdom, Dagobert returned from Ireland in 679. Trouble set in, and it ended with the death of Dagobert and the rise of a new royal bloodline. The Catholics had wiped out the troublesome Merovingians once and for all. Or did they? The truth is that the Merovingian bloodline was already deeply rooted in the bloodline of the royalty in Europe, and it could not be erased. Scholars insist the ancient alien blood coursed through their veins, and they remain to this day one of the most powerful families on the planet. The Merovingians, connected etymologically with the snake as well as ritualistically, were simply descendants of the serpent bloodline. The royal line descended from serpent alien invaders who spread out across the globe in India and China, in Britain and America. The original and almost fabled Merovech is named after the sacred bull of the ancient Greeks, Mero. The ultimate secret held sacred by the Greeks was this: the bull has begotten a serpent, and the serpent a bull. The two are interchangeable. The bull is symbolized by the Tau cross, and so too is the serpent. It was this King Merovech, the first in line of Merovingian kings, who was said to have been spawned by the great sea bull Quinotar. This is a giant sea monster with a bull head. The Mer part of Merovi becomes obvious in that Mer means sea. He is the king bull of the sea, the sun in Taurus, which gives us a special place in time, the time of the original ancient alien invasion. This Bull King goes back a very long way in history, right back to the days of Mesopotamia and kings such as Sargon and Menes. But this goes back yet further, to an association between these kings and their legendary genesis from ancient sea-born gods such as Oannes and Dagon, who were serpent gods or aliens. These myths are those of invading serpent aliens and migrating snake cults coming into the land, bringing with them all the skills associated with the coming of these ancient gods, such as metallurgy, architecture, and medicine. These are the same as the biblical Leviathan, the great serpent of ages past who encircled the world as Ouroboros, the symbol of immortality and eternity, of control over the globe. This is the same symbol which attracts the phrase, "My end is my beginning," like the words placed into the mouth of Christ. I am the beginning and the end, the Alpha and Omega. In fact, the Christians of later times went on to use the image of the Ouroboros as a symbol for the Alpha and Omega elements of their Christian faith. The Levites, of course, derived their name from this Leviathan, the name meaning sons of the Leviathan. They were the sons of the serpent rulers of ancient times. According to Babylonian legend, in the beginning, there was neither land, gods, nor men. There were only aliens known as Tiamat and Apsu. Tiamat was the female and the spirit of salt water and primal chaos, and Apsu the male, the spirit of fresh water and void. Tiamat is depicted with scales and a serpentine body and legs, with horns on her head. The union of these two gods produced all other gods, including the greatest among them, Quinagu. This later became the Quinotar, the progenitor of the Merovingians. Their bloodline stretched back to the end of the age of Taurus. This, for the first time, gives us actual dates for the ancient alien invasion, and amazingly, it fits perfectly with all that we have discovered and their origin in the dawn of Mesopotamian civilization. 5,000 to 4,000 BC. Over thousands of years and across hundreds of cultures, the history of this ancient invasion by the great shining ones from the heavens altered and became legend and myth. Much of it turned into the great religions of the planet. But to some, hidden in these stories is the real truth of an invasion of planet Earth by beings so strange that we called them serpents. Ancient man left cave paintings and tales of their coming across the world. Signs are everywhere that the great guardians of the Shining Ones, known as the Watchers, mated with human females and a hybrid bloodline was born. It became the bloodline of the rulers of our globe and was protected and kept secret. Every now and then, the secret would emerge into popular mythology with people such as the Merovingians and tales of superhuman powers. Up until around 5,000 BC, we know that mankind had no great civilizations. It had been this way for millennia. Then suddenly, at the very time we know as the Age of Taurus, at the very period that our remaining texts tell us that the Shining Ones came and taught humanity, it all changed. Suddenly, civilization erupted. The Sumerians migrated to Mesopotamia, towards something that seemed to attract them. This is the period of tales of a great cataclysm that we know of as the Flood. Judgment from above. The gods were angry and dealt humanity a cruel blow. These tales are worldwide. Civilization erupted, and great learning spread far and wide. Serpent rock art appeared all over the world. A great and powerful image of a horned god now begins to find itself everywhere. This is the Lord of the animals, the image of the one who had all the knowledge. In the Bible, he would become the one we know as Moses, the wielder of the serpent staff, the teacher of his people, the one who would raise up the brazen serpent in the wilderness to protect his special people from other serpents. This is the period that Enoch tells us was the time of war between those who had come down from the sky, the angels, the Nephilim, the Shining Ones. These were the great shining serpents who had magical flaming swords and wheel-like or disc-like ships that flew around the sky. As the scribe of the Shining Ones, Enoch himself was shielded from death and taken away by the aliens to live out his days in heaven. Christians today know him as the man who walked with God, and the reason is simple. God came down to earth and walked on our soil, spoke with Enoch, and then returned. Whatever this means, it does reveal that ancient man witnessed something remarkable. Evidence shows us that this was the period of the ancient invasion of planet Earth by the shining race of serpents who came from the sky. Our ancestors worshipped them for their amazing power, and yet, in our modern scientific age, we can now see things more clearly. These were not angels or messengers of light. These were not great Greek deities set on high and issuing commands. They were not the many-faced Hindu or Egyptian gods. These were beings from another planet who came here with superior technology. They helped mankind start civilization. They bred with us and fought with each other. Most, we are told, left, but the hybrid race remained among us as special people. And now, with every passing day, NASA tells us that they have discovered yet another Earth-like planet that could sustain life. They find ancient rivers and lakes on Mars, and even fatty acids within the Martian soil. They alter their equations on the existence of alien life on a weekly basis. Even they are growing more and more aware that soon they will discover something special. The question is, will we awaken the ancient invaders? And will they return? If they're not already here. Well, the fact is, these serpent aliens may use more than space to appear on Earth. They may also use time. There is a growing body of evidence to suggest that such time travel events are indeed taking place. In many cultures, there are stories and legends of serpents that could transform into human form and were capable of time travel. In Greek mythology, for example, there is the story of the Titan Kronos, who was able to travel back in time to prevent his own death. The Christian Bible also mentions a serpent-like creature that appears in the Garden of Eden. This ancient creature is believed to have been able to manipulate time and space. Many scientists now believe that some form of extraterrestrial life exists, and that it may be capable of time travel. In recent years, a number of objects have been discovered in space that defy explanation. These objects appear to be moving faster than the speed of light, and some scientists believe they are using a form of time travel to reach their destination. There have been many reports of strange lights and objects in the skies that cannot be explained. Some of these sightings may have been attributed to UFOs, and some to time-traveling aliens. Many ancient writings describe mysterious creatures that are capable of time travel and are believed to be extraterrestrial in origin. In conclusion, there is a growing body of evidence to suggest that ancient serpent aliens still visit Earth and also use time travel.